Gege Akutami graced us with the amazing story of Jujutsu Kaisen for 6 straight years, and it has finally ended. So will he come back for a next try to do another manga? Well, he did say at the end of the note on his final chapter, maybe not him, it might be his editors, it was said to wait for his next work. Many fans looked at this and were very excited because it meant Gege Akutami is not done with manga and that he'll be returning, but I believe he's not done with making manga because he is only in his early 30s, so there is much time in his life for him to come back for another work, and I don't think it is going to be that long until we see him, and there are reasons I'm saying this, and I'm going to be discussing them in this video. But before you go any further, please make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel, and without further ado, let's get back into it. Before Gege Akutami serialized in Weekly Shonen Jump, he wanted the setting for his Jujutsu Kaisen story to be in a feudal Japan fantastical setting, but he was told by his editor to make it in a modern day Japan high school setting. Gege wasn't particularly happy with this and didn't have much say in this situation because he was just a young new mangaka who wanted to make it into Shonen Jump, so he had to comply with some of the creative decisions that was forced upon him. We know this because of the interviews Gege gave when he was talking about his rookie days, and for him to alter the setting that he had originally planned had a huge effect. I want people to understand that how much changing an aspect of your story such as setting could massively impact your story. A setting can highly determine how rich and interesting your world building can be. I'm not saying you can't have a good and rich world building with a story set up in modern Japan like how Jujutsu Kaisen is. What I'm saying is that it is easier and the potential is higher to craft an interesting world when you set your story in a fantastical world. Like the world of Naruto, Hunter x Hunter and One Piece, all these stories are set up in a fantastical world which allows for a lot of craziness to happen in their respective stories, which I think Jujutsu Kaisen was robbed of when Gege Akutami's editor told him to make the setting for the Jujutsu Kaisen story in modern Japan when he was trying to serialize in Weekly Shonen Jump. Even shonen stories that are set up in our modern world such as Bleach and Yu Yu Hakusho, their stories inevitably devolve into taking place in a fantasy setting, such as many of Bleach's story taking place in the Soul Society or Hueki Mundo, and in Yu Yu Hakusho when Yusuke went to the spirit world. This just tells me that a fantastical setting is very important for a battle shonen story to flourish and reach its maximum potential, and I feel like the story of Jujutsu Kaisen and the author Gege Akutami were robbed of that element that could have made the already great Jujutsu Kaisen story greater than it already was, and that's why Jujutsu Kaisen didn't run as long as many people expected. I believe that is the case because Jujutsu Kaisen was just not the story Gege Akutami really wanted to tell. I think he got hampered right from chapter 1 because he was complying to things that would constrain his story because he had no option, but I believe that is going to change when Gege Akutami comes out with his next work, and I believe he's going to have another work, not only because he is still young and has a lot of energy and time to do so, but because we got a note at the end of the final Jujutsu Kaisen chapter to await Gege Akutami's next work. Some fans are not buying it because a lot of the times when it's written to await an author's next work at the final chapters of a manga, they don't end up doing any other work. It's almost like customary to say wait for my next work when a manga ends even though they don't plan to make one, but I don't believe that is the case for Gege Akutami. I believe he genuinely wants to return with another manga, and that is why it was written at the end of the JJK final chapter to await his next work. And I do really believe Gege will return because he is a very talented author. From the interviews I've read from Gege Akutami, he seems to be a guy who really understands stories. I consider JJK to be the best among the new gen battle shonens, and I I just don't think he is the type of guy to finish his first manga and set off into the sunset just like that. Gege Akutami's journey that he is on now is very reminiscent of another mangaka who is renowned for his two legendary shonen manga, Yoshihiro Togashi. Togashi was responsible for crafting the Yu Yu Hakusho manga and the Hunter x Hunter manga. He first made a name for himself back in the early 90s when he was making the Yu Yu Hakusho manga. There are some similarities between Yu Yu Hakusho and Jujutsu Kaisen in that they are both set in modern Japan and both deal heavily with supernatural elements that normal people couldn't interact with. We also have another similarity in that both the protagonists of the stories, Yuji Itadori and Yusuke Urameshi, are both high school students. And not to mention that Gege Akutami has mentioned that he admires Togashi and has taken some inspirations from him. But the main reason why I see the journey of Gege Akutami might resemble Yoshihiro Togashi's journey is that much like Gege Akutami when starting the Jujutsu Kaisen manga, Yoshihiro Togashi also didn't have much freedom when he was making Yu Yu Hakusho. We can understand this from the interviews he gave of him really expressing how much torturous the weekly shonen grind was. And also like the story of Jujutsu Kaisen, Yu Yu Hakusho had a rushed ending, but in the year of 1998, Yoshihiro Togashi returned with a new manga which we are all familiar with called Hunter x Hunter. Togashi had more freedom when crafting the story of Hunter x Hunter, albeit there was some interference from his editor initially. I mean, Togashi's initial plan for Gon, the main character of Hunter x Hunter, was for him to fail the Hunter exams and have a time skip and have Gon as an adult and continue the story from there. Obviously, this was too radical of an idea for his editor to accept, so this idea was scrapped by his editor, but Togashi went on to express the wild ideas he had for the Hunter x Hunter story in further arcs. What I'm trying to say is, Togashi had more freedom when making Hunter x Hunter than Yu Yu Hakusho, because he became a household name after he made Yu Yu Hakusho, so when he came back to make Hunter x Hunter, even though there was still some pushback, he was able to make the story he wanted in the way he wanted. I believe that the same scenario will play out for Gege Akutami. Gege already made a popular manga in Jujutsu Kaisen, which I believe he is not satisfied with, because he was constrained by his editor initially, and also the rushed ending Jujutsu Kaisen had felt like Gege just wanted to get over with it so that he could start working on his next project. And if my theory is true and he comes back with another work of manga, he is going to have more freedom to tell the story that he wants in the way he wants to, because Gege is a respected mangaka in the industry now due to the popularity of Jujutsu Kaisen. But there is a concern because writing a second popular manga is not easy. Not everyone is Togashi. We have the situation with Masashi Kishimoto, the great renowned author of Naruto, where he attempted to make a second manga and failed miserably with his manga Samurai 8. And it was not like they didn't give Masashi Kishimoto enough time to tell the story, to let the story breathe, unlike other mangakas whose stories would get axed if they don't show immediate results in sales. What I'm trying to highlight with the case of Masashi Kishimoto is that even if you are a great mangaka with a popular manga in your resume, it will not be easy to create that same spark again. So if Gege Akutami returns, his real prowess as a mangaka will be tested, and seeing that will be very exciting to me, as it would be for most of you, I presume, because I'm a Gege believer and I think he can create another great manga if he ever returns. So what would this hypothetical manga of Gege Akutami look like if he ever decides to return? Well, by my estimations, like I said before, I think it'll be set in a fantasy world rather than a modern version of Japan, much like how Togashi decided to set Hunter x Hunter in a fantasy world, unlike Yu Yu Hakusho, which was a modern version of Japan. I also think Gege Akutami is going to make another battle shonen. I don't think he'll be returning to make a gag manga or a rom-com shoujo manga. He doesn't strike me as a mangaka who would do that, but if he shifted genres, I could see him make a seinen manga, but I have doubts on that too. But if he wants to go a darker seinen route, I could see him make a Chainsaw Man-esque manga when it comes to the tonal darkness of the story, because Jujutsu Kaisen is a darker battle shonen, unlike many other battle shonens like MHA, Kaiju number 8, and Dandadan. I think Gege prefers to tell darker shonen stories, so I won't be surprised if his next manga is darker than Jujutsu Kaisen. And we all know how detailed Gege likes to be with his power system, so I'd expect his next manga to also have that. And lastly, I think it's not going to be a traditional battle shonen like how Jujutsu Kaisen was. I think if Gege returns, he'll do a deconstruction of battle shonen, much like Hunter x Hunter was. And yeah, I think Gege Akutami is a really talented mangaka, and I really do want him to make another manga and hope he returns, because I believe he still has a lot to offer. If you've made it this far, please consider subscribing to the channel. Also, don't forget to hit the like and notification button, and with that said, see you in the next one.